And joining us now is Morris County Prosecutor Robert Bianchi. Robert, welcome. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Yeah, thank you very much, guys.
Now, Robert, you hate bullies, right?
I do.
In fact, you've said that sometimes a bully has to be bullied.
That's
you
correct.
see that as your role. Why does a prosecutor have to deal with bullies?
Well, I think that this new bill and this new legislation has brought to light something that...
One second, the anti-bullying legislation that was put forth by Assemblywoman Valerie Huddle, we actually had her on the program. That's the legislation we're talking about.
That's great.
Go ahead.
Correct. Harassment, intimidation, and bullying. In the prosecutor's office, for example, what I see up in Morris County, and especially with the proliferation of electronic media, which makes basically harassment a 24/7 thing, I go back to the old analogies that when I was bullied, and probably all of us to some extent at one point in time were, it was a schoolyard situation. It was a situation where we were able to have a safe haven when we go home. And I know a lot of people are saying this, but what I'm seeing is more of the psychological aspect that goes in addition to the physical bullying that's happening in the schools. Since 2007, in the prosecutor's office of Morris County at least, we've had over 661 bullying lectures and reached over 20,000 students and 3,000 parents talking about this issue. But what I noticed was when we're trying to interface with the law enforcement and education community, which we're very progressive with in our county, was that it's spotty and disparate in terms of the manner in which it's being done, and really you need to do a lot of investment, get people to buy in and be out there day, night, and weekends running these classes. So what the new law has done essentially is it's really created a charged situation, especially on the education piece, where the education community is now coming forward because they're concerned about civil liability issues. There's mandatory reporting requirements, and one of those requirements is mandatory reporting to a law enforcement agency if the definition fits what would be what's already in our criminal code. The drafters of the legislation I thought were very brilliant in this. Being a certified criminal trial attorney, having done prosecution work, defense work, you just don't want another law thrown into the criminal code.
But Robert, I'm trying to get at it. You know, the law is there. The law helps you deal with bullies. But you're not doing it because the law is there. You do it because you think this is a real serious issue, comparable to drugs, comparable to other things. Why?
Well, I think that there's a lot of societal reasons for this, in my opinion, and the reason why I think the law is good is because now it's mandating reporting to law enforcement, because if we don't know about it in the prosecutor's office or police agency, we can't do anything about it. But why is it bad? Social media is a reason, and if you had to give me a second reason, because I'm very hands-on in the office, parents. You know, a lot of times they're pointing to the education community and asking, what are you doing? Or to the law enforcement community, what are you doing? We go to bullying lectures where we give notification to all the parents in big school districts, and we go there, and sometimes there could be 5 or 6 parents that are in the room. Nobody really is invested in it. So again, the parent doesn't have to be responsible now under the new law, or the teachers don't have to be responsible under the new law. Everyone is invested in terms of getting involved in this, but I really believe that the parents need to start taking responsibility, especially for those who have kids who are bullying.
Bob, talk to us about this particular case. Lennon Baldwin, 15 years old. You told our colleague and friend Mark Diano from the Star-Ledger in a feature story about this young man, Lennon Baldwin, 15 years old, Morristown High School freshman who hanged himself in his home in March. He was bullied.
Well, you know, it is an active case, Steve, so
Tell us what has been alleged.
But here is the thing. If in a case like this where a person is going to school and it is alleged in this case that he was physically assaulted, as a result of the physical assault that occurred at the school, it is alleged that he then was, well, we know he was suspended, and it is alleged that afterwards, as a result of the suspension, a lot of pressure was placed on young man Baldwin in order to recant, to say that it was just a joke, and then it led to another, as you see, there's allegations of robbery and assault that occurred in yet another incident. And here's my point, because a lot of people ask this question: why is it that the defendants aren't being charged with homicide or some more serious offense? And I think we need to use the rule of reason when we're dealing with this law. Many of these people who are the victims of bullying are isolated. There are people who have mental health issues, emotional issues, and it can be, and I'm not suggesting this with Mr. Baldwin, but I'm just saying there can be a whole constellation of issues that occur with a person, and the bullying can be the thing that puts you over the top.
But why is Lennon Baldwin, this 15-year-old Morristown High School freshman who hanged himself, why is he being mentioned here as part of the bullying issue?
Well, the media actually was doing a lot of connecting in terms of the bullying issue, and they were asking questions. Was he being bullied by the definition of the HIB statute, the harassment, intimidation,
Do you believe
bullying
so?
statute? I believe by definition of that statute, yes. The incident would be if you are on school property and you are being physically assaulted, and if you are thereafter, it could just be a single incident or it can be a series of incidents. This isn't just the allegations aren't just of a single incident, it's of a series of incidents. So I believe it meets that definition.
Let me ask you this, Bob. Is it the role of the prosecutor's office, because you told the Star-Ledger, quote, this is the biggest scourge in the teenage community. Drugs used to be #1 problem in our schools. Now this is bullying. A bigger problem than drugs?
I think a lot of times when you look at drug abuse, especially people that we're trying to put into rehab, at the root of a lot of this is the social pressures that are occurring in school, as well as the bullying that's happening. I believe that the drug issues that we've had and the drug interdiction that we do is what we do. We already do that. We've been doing that for 40 or 50 years. This has been the unattended, unanswered, allowed to continue scourge, as I put it, with regard to students. And the first thing that these schools have to do, and I'm not suggesting that they don't, but what we all collectively need to do is have a safe environment for the students. That's most important.
Do you have the people? Does the prosecutor's office in Morris County, and do other prosecutors' offices, do you have the people power, man and women hours, the people to do what is necessary to prosecute these cases?
Absolutely, and here's the thing. We're not really doing anything different other than getting the data, which we should have gotten a long time ago. Steve, the biggest problem that I think law enforcement has with the education community in terms of working is that there is disparate treatment, and many times...
What does that mean, disparate treatment?
Well, one jurisdiction does it one way, another jurisdiction does it another way. We have 39 school jurisdictions in Morris County. Everyone's doing it a little bit different.
That's why this law is important?
Well, I think, yeah, because it's a unified set of circumstances and a unified standard by which reporting has to occur. Defining bullying,
right.
Defining what you're supposed to do. So when we're dealing with the various different school districts, one of the problems that we have in law enforcement is many times, and I'm not just talking about bullying, I'm talking about rape, I'm talking about drugs. They're flushed down the toilet, they're not reported. We may find out about it anecdotally 4, 5, 6 months later.
You don't share that, you don't share information, you don't share what you need to know from another county prosecutor?
Yeah, law enforcement, I think, is very well.
You're saying
the
educational community.
Yeah, we are not finding it out from the education community, and a lot of times we'll find out that witnesses have been interviewed or drugs were flushed down the toilet, and what we're trying to say is that you need to stop trying to make it appear as if you don't have a problem in the school. It's too important. It has to be reported to law enforcement if it's a law enforcement issue. On the prosecutor's office side, I want to make this clear too. It's a win-win for the bullied and the bully, because the purpose of the juvenile code is to rehabilitate the offender. And if the parents aren't going to do that any longer, aren't going to take the time or investment to do that, and I don't mean to be disrespectful, and guys engaging in bullying activity, well, the juvenile justice system could try to put that person into the various anger management classes and education classes that need to be done in order to put a leash on that bullying activity.
Got it. Prosecutor Bob Bianchi, in doing important work, it is, people think bullying, you know, it's been going on forever. It's worse than ever, and that's why we need everyone's involvement. We appreciate you joining us on Capitol Report. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Ralph?